Michael, you curated this exhibition and you were not aware of Pakistani art before. We sent you the images, and out of that you made this selection. Now you have displayed them. What do you think of it? What is your impression? Was you expecting this or something else, and how do you see it all?
Well, it was a process. The original artwork that you sent me, slides. First of all, it's very, of course, as all our artists know, it's very difficult to tell texture, brush strokes, things like that from slides. But I felt like I was living with this material for a long time, and as I examined and thought and relooked, I became more and more delighted by the quality, the really beautiful quality of the work, both conceptually and presentationally. I was surprised by the level of representation, of representational art, that would be so significant in all the contemporary paintings. Not every single one, obviously, but representation was very important, and figurative, the human figure as the means of conveying both social constructs or spiritual constructs were the means of representation, and that was a surprise, and a unique surprise. It was interesting to try to convey something about the culture of Pakistan, where these arts in many ways are talking about universal themes, but as we know, all people are based in their culture somehow. And to see how people connected through their culture to talk about the universal ideas that they were experiencing. So that was really a very nice surprise. I wasn't prepared to see how much, I don't know if I should, how much undertow of spirituality was in so many of the paintings. I didn't expect this kind of Sufi ideas being imagined in a visual representation, and that was very interesting, and that continues to be very interesting to me.
So when you received the paintings, the artist you selected, and you saw the work in real, how you felt about it?
I was just blown over. It was so beautiful. The works are so beautiful, and as soon as I saw them, I thought, I was just blown away. I was really, because you never know until you see things in the real thing, instead of a slide of representation, how beautiful they are, how aesthetic, how sophisticated, and how together as a totality it really works as an exhibition. That made my work feel very satisfying.
Mm-hmm. So, you have been curating exhibitions here from all over the world. How would you rate this work? Where do you see Pakistani artist stands?
That's a hard one. When you curate, every exhibition is your child.
Mm-hmm.
So you love all your children.
Mm-hmm.
For different reasons. So it's apples and oranges. I mean, for me, I just think most of what we do here at the East-West Center is not usually contemporary art. We don't usually do exhibitions focusing on contemporary painting. So because we try to combine often traditional arts and show the continuity of culture. that's really important to us to do that, because so many of the cultures we dealing with are ancient cultures. But we felt in this situation that it was really important to show something about contemporary Pakistan because of what's going on in the media in the United States right now. And there's so little positive news that we receive about Pakistan here in Hawaii. Either people are unfortunately ignorant, or if they're informed at all, they're informed with the worst news possible. So we wanted to show that we know there's a really vibrant cultural society going on in Pakistan, where people are making social commentary, interacting, have the power to really show through their own art how they feel as human beings, as citizens of the world, in relationship to the world through their art. And so I think when people come into the gallery, they are surprised, because we've heard a number of times since we've opened, people are saying, I never knew there was this kind of dynamic representation going on over there. And so this is very important for us to break stereotypes, because after all, the East-West Center is about cultural interchange, understanding, bringing people to understand each other, to the peoples of Asia and the Pacific region and the peoples of the United States closer. And this is eye-opening for people, I think.
So what has been the most striking remark that you have received from the people who have come in on the opening day and during the talks?
That's putting me on the spot, because at the moment I can't think of any pithy comments. It's more been the quality of the comments. Mm-hmm. Few words of surprise. Most people are just astounded by the beauty of the works and the quality. And excited to see such interesting, beautiful artwork. So more than a specific person saying something specific, mm-hmm. It's more this attitude of opening up to a new experience that I keep getting from the audience and the people that come to our gallery.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's not compare it with the exhibitions in the past or the other exhibitions that you have had. Just look at this exhibition, and then what would you say if the artists are there, and let's say they are present here and they want to know how you have rated their work, or what would you say? Who struck you most and why?
Oh, that I would never. That I would never. I mean, I could talk about each work as mm-hmm. as something interesting. Something that fascinated me.
Right.
And I think that's more significant than who. I don't have the power or the ability to rate people's works. I don't feel that that's my job. I just look and see what it seems significant that I would then make something cohesive, a cohesive statement mm-hmm. together, and also what specifically interest. Someone we're talking about gender or gender issues, that becomes a part of the totality of the issue, whether it's Akram Dose's work or Ali Kazim's work or Abrar. They're working off of a whole cultural story here. Mm-hmm. Whether they're talking, one side from homoerotic, but very, very subtle. Mm-hmm. Where you're just tuning into a different image of that possibility, or like Abrar is it's almost classical South Asian images done in a very contemporary form, but you know, the parrot, the monsoon rains, all these things are images that we're familiar when we think of both literature from South Asia and poetry, etc. So, or you know, you look at, I mean, the difference in landscapes or the calligraphy. They're unique in themselves, each work, and of course, you know, the ones that specifically deal with the spiritual issues are really fascinating, very fascinating.
Mm-hmm. So you enjoyed displaying it, enjoyed curating it, and thank you for putting it such a wonderful display of all this work together.
Well, you know, we couldn't have done it without you. You know, I mean, you're the main man for me, and we're grateful to you, and we're grateful to every single artist here who has, you know, shared so much of themselves. Because, you know, when an artist shares their work, they're sharing their work. They're sharing their heart, basically. They're sharing their soul, their heart, and it's very poignant because it's so clear as people experience this that that's what they're doing. They're sharing so deeply of themselves, and anyone who's worked as an artist or knows artists knows how much it requires from people to produce something visual from something either internal, spiritual, intellectual. How to get that out so an image appears that people can relate to.
Certainly, we are thankful to the artists who have participated, because without their participation, this would not have been possible. And knowing that this will be here, it's a non-commercial gallery, they are not being displayed for sale, they know that these paintings will be blocked for a certain time, so it is their contribution. But coming back to my question, if we see it's an international exhibition, and as an international exhibition, where do you rate it? What do you really, what are the unique things you find in them that you would say that it is Pakistani artists are capable of holding international exhibitions and competing with others? And
I mean, there's nothing to say. You look at the artwork and you see that it's highly qualified art. It's beautiful. It's aesthetic. It's developed. It's complex. There's a conversation going on amongst the arts themselves. There's technique. There's everything a viewer could want to see, and everything. There's so many ways to approach what's here, and there's so much here. It's you know, I mean, I'm sure that this work will continue to grow the interest as people learn more about Pakistan and Pakistani art. I think there'll be a greater and greater interest and market. It's inevitable because the quality is here. The conversation, the subject, I think people are looking more and more as so much of art has become internationalized. People are still interested in a localized vision that plugs into something that's accessible. And I think that's something that's unique here, because it's so involved in, of course, localized cultural experience, and yet it's approachable from people in the international world that we all live in now. We all live in this global environment, and we all have to try to understand each other to a certain level, so there's enough universal understanding from the visuals that can be taken into one's heart, and yet it is so richly and deeply embedded in culture. And I think that's what people are looking for when they're looking at art now.
some critics and artists, even in Pakistan, say, or abroad, say that contemporary art in Pakistan is not contemporary in the real sense, and we have labeled this exhibition as contemporary art in Pakistan. So how would you respond to that? Do you think these artists are contemporary artists? They are painting contemporary work, or?
I I don't even know how to relate to that question. I mean, contemporary means now, right? These people are living now, painting, so it's contemporary. And the images and the way people are working out their issues is contemporary manner. Now, whether it is the same contemporary image that's going on in London or Czechoslovakia, oh, there's no more Czechoslovakia, it's not contemporary anymore, Prague, or whether Berlin or New York or Los Angeles or where the great commercial centers of art right now. But those are shifting too, as we know. Centers are shifting to China is a huge exporter of contemporary art right now. And India's also on the verge, so, you know, why not Pakistan? It's clear to me that, you know, that there's you know, Pakistan there's 160 million people. That's a very large country. And as people are training and finding outlets, I have no doubt that this venture will grow.
The criticism is that there is very little abstraction or the dotted lines. It's too much portrayal. There is too much picture in this, and
you know that shifts all the time in the art world scene. You know, one time it's representational, one time it's neo-expressionism, another time it's pop images. You know, you can't. You know, people are connecting to themselves in a deep way. That's what makes good art, and of course, in my estimation, and so. There's not one story. We no longer live in one capital. We live in a global environment. And so we have to look at each other, what interests each other, with open hearts and minds. Otherwise, we're going to blow each other up. And so if this is what's interesting the artists of Pakistan, this is what's important. And what they're connecting to, what they want to, you know, I sometimes think, you know, if I go to New York, I mean, I live in the provinces here in Hawaii. And I have often thought when I've been to New York, I've never been to a place more provincial. Because people there know nothing outside of their own environment. Granted, there's, you know, 12 million people in this environment, and they're from all over the world. And yet they can't picture what life is outside. So they have no image of what's going on in Karachi. They can't even imagine a Karachi. So, in a sense, they're provincial. They can't imagine what most of the world lives like and deals with. So, I don't think people can take themselves out of the environment they're in and assume that there's something else better or more knowledgeable. They have to look to themselves for what they want to present and feel proud of that. That's decolonization, right?
Okay, just the last word. Anything you would like to say, all these 12 participating artists?
Well, I just want to say how grateful I am that we've been able to show their work and hopefully gain a greater understanding of Pakistan to the audience that comes here, and that people will really continue to appreciate what wonderful work they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.